Hello, today I am going to show you how you can clone or duplicate your Shopify store to another Shopify store using the Matrixify app. Now, generally, the process is as simple as exporting from one store using the Matrixify app and importing to the other using the Matrixify app. However, before we do so, there are a few things that we need to do before we can start the process. So here I have my two Shopify stores. So I have the Matrixify old store, which is the store that we're going to be migrating from, and my Matrixify new store, which is the store that we're going to be importing into. So in this tutorial, I will be showing you how you can clone or duplicate your entire store. So that includes orders, products, customers, discounts, companies, and so on. But if you so wish, you can also just clone or duplicate a certain entity. That's completely up to you. But in this case, I will be showing you how you can clone everything. We need to start in the store that we'd be importing into or migrating to, which in my case would be the Matrixify store new. And in this store, you would then need to head to your settings. Once in your shop settings, in the general section, scroll down to order processing. And here in the order processing section, you must make sure that don't fulfill any of the orders line items automatically is checked. The reason for this is because when Matrixify will import an order, it will import the order in sections. So it will import the base of the order, then it will go ahead and try to import anything attached to the order. So that would be fulfillments, transactions, refunds, and so on. If the base order is imported, which would be an unfulfilled, unpaid order, if, for example, automatically fulfill the orders line items is selected instead of don't fulfill any of the order line items automatically, then Shopify will get to the order before Matrixify has a chance to, and Shopify will fulfill the order, which will then actually send out notification emails to your customers, which 9 times out of 10 isn't what we would like to be doing if migrating store data. So it is very, very important to select don't fill any of the orders line items automatically so that Matrixify has a chance to fulfill the line items of the order. And by default, no notifications are sent out to customers. So this will just make sure of that. So once selected, go ahead and press save. And still in Shopify settings, we then need to head to notifications. In the notification section, we then need to select staff notifications. And the aim here is to turn off all staff notifications. This is because when an order is created in your Shopify admin, a staff notification to all of your staff members and the store owner will be sent out. To stop this from happening, especially if importing thousands or millions of orders, it is best to turn off these staff notifications. And you can do so by clicking the 3 dots and pressing the turn off button, which will then turn off the staff notifications. Once you have imported all your data, you can then switch these back on so that when you do receive new orders without the import but just in store, then you will continue to receive the staff notifications as you previously did before you imported. Still keeping in the settings of your store, you then need to head to locations. So here we have locations. Locations in both of your stores when migrating the data from one store to another have to match. The reason for this is so that when you import product inventory or order fulfillment, for example, that everything can be recreated as it is, since Matrixify is not directly able to import locations, but Matrixify is able to use the locations. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to make sure that the locations we have in this new store match the locations that we have in the old store. Now, it's not so much of a matter of the actual count of the locations needing to be the exact same, but it's just making sure that this new store has the locations that your old store has and that the name of these locations are exact. So that's what we're going to be doing now. So we first need to start by heading back to our old store to check what locations we have there. So here we are in our old store, and we need to head to the settings in the old store and click on locations. So here we can see that our old store has two locations, and the locations would be Paris warehouse and UK warehouse location. These are the locations that should be in the new store as well. Now, one thing to mention is that the actual address part of the location, it doesn't need to be the same. The only thing that needs to be the same is the actual name of the location, which in this case is Paris warehouse and UK warehouse location. So now if we remember, our new store also has two locations, and only one of them is exactly the same as the location that we have here, which is Paris warehouse. So the location that we need to add to the new store is UK warehouse location. So a good way to do this is to take the location name. So here, copy it, the page, and then head to your new store and add the location here. So add location, add the name of the location that we would like to add, and then hit save. So you may get a warning saying that the address could not be verified, in which case if you would like to use this new location in your new store, you would then obviously need to set up the actual address for the location. But if not, say if you're importing historic data, for example, then you can just leave the location name as is. And here you should be able to see your three locations that have been set up in your new store. So we have Paris warehouse, Riga warehouse, UK warehouse location. And this Paris warehouse and UK warehouse location match exactly what we have in our old store, which is exactly what we need. And now we can move on to the next step. Now, the next step would be to recreate market in the store that we are importing into. So staying in the same Shopify settings that we are in, we now need to head to markets. Here we can see that the store has the Latvia market and international market, which is currently inactive, but generally the store does have Latvia as a market and international as a market. Now, again, what we would need is we would need the market in this store to match what we have in our old store. So now again, going back to our old store to check what markets that store has. So here, if we head to markets, we can see that this store has Latvia, International, and United Kingdom. So we would need to add the market United Kingdom to our new store. So then again, heading back to our new store, what we would now need to do is press Add Market. And what's really, really important here is that we name the market the same as what we have in our old store. The name needs to be an exact match in order for the import into this store to work correctly. So the name would be United Kingdom. And then we would now choose United Kingdom from the list here and press Add Market. Now here you can see that the market has been created. And we have Latvia, United Kingdom, and International, which matches exactly what we have in our old store. And the import will now also work for markets. And now the next thing that we need to do is we need to recreate both meta field and meta object definitions in the store that we are importing into, which would be, again, this new store. This would mean heading to custom data. And here we can see for the new store, we have nothing set up yet. In your case, if you do already have metafield definitions set up, you can definitely keep them. But the main thing is that the metafield definitions in this new store match the old store, which is the store that we're migrating from. So now we would need to head back to the old store to check what metafield definitions and meta object definitions that store has, so we can then recreate them in this new store. So now heading to our old store and heading to custom data in the Shopify settings, we can then see what metafield definitions and meta object definitions that we have set up. In my case, I have two product metafield definitions, so I'm going to click here and take a look at the metafield definition setup. So I have star product, which is a product reference list type metafield, and a color metafield, which is a single line text type metafield. And what I would need to do is I need to recreate these exact meta field definitions in the store that I am importing into. It is very, very important that the namespace and the key, which would be here, the namespace and the key, custom star product, match and are exactly the same, and also the type of meta field definition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and recreate this in my new store. And also it's very important for meta object definitions as well. And here I have one meta object definition, which would be honey colors. And here you can see the exact definition, which would be a single line text field called honey. And it's also very, very important that this exact meta object definition is recreated in our new store as well. Exactly the same. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in my new store as well. So now I am back in my new store, and as you can see, I have now set up the two product meta field definitions that we saw in my old store. So I have color and star products, and I've also created the meta object definition as well, which was honey colors. And once you have the meta field and meta object definitions matching from store to store, then you are ready to go. And that would be the last step in regard to setup. So now that everything has been set up in our store settings for our new store, we can then head back to our old store and go to the Matrixify app. Once in the Matrixify app, you would then need to head to New Export. Now, on the export page, you would first need to start by selecting an export format. Now, if your old store doesn't contain a very, very large amount of data, then we would recommend exporting it in the Excel format, as Excel does tend to be more reliable than a CSV format. However, if you do have lots and lots of data in your store, then we would recommend selecting the CSV format for export, as that would then be able to hold all of your data, as Excel does have its limitations. Now, once you've selected the format, we then need to select the data that we would like to export from this old store and import into our new store. Now, as previously mentioned, I am going to be migrating everything from my old store to my new store. However, you can choose to just export certain entities. It's completely up to you. It won't affect the general process, but in this case, yes, I will be exporting my whole store. You'd need to select every entity that is an export only from the Select Sheets dropdown. So in my case, I've selected products, smart collections, custom collections, customers, companies, discounts, draft orders, orders, pages, blog posts, redirects, files, meta object, and shop. So you don't need to select payout and activity because these can only be exported and they can't be imported anyway, so you can leave them out of the export. Make sure that for each of these entities, you export everything that can be exported. If you do see an export only tag, it means that this column group can only be exported, which means it can't be imported, which in turn means that there's no point in exporting it in this case, since we are exporting to then import. So you don't need to select the export only column groups in this case. So for smart collections, for example, that would be product count. The same would go for custom collections, but select everything else to be exported, and so on and so on for each entity that you can see in these drop downs. So now I am just going to go through each entity and make sure everything is selected that is an export only, and in your case you would then obviously also need to do the same. Just go through each entity and make sure everything is checked. So now, as you can see, everything has been selected. So if we scroll down and look through each column group for each entity, we can see that everything's been selected, apart from the export only columns, which, as mentioned, you don't need to export in this case. So just making sure, double checking that everything has been selected. Then at the bottom of the page, you will see an options drop down. In this case, we don't actually need to change any of these export options. The default options will work exactly as we need them to, and we don't need to change anything in this case. So you can leave the options as is. Everything will work as it should without changing any of the options. Now, one thing to mention is that if you do want to export or clone only specific products or any entity for that matter, you can also add export filters, which will export only products or orders or customers or whichever entity you are adding a filter to. It will only export the entities that match that filter. But in this case, as I want to clone everything, I won't be adding a filter at all, so I'll be leaving everything as is. So now that everything has been set up, we can go ahead and press export. Once you hit the export button, you will see that each entity is now being exported. So we just need to wait for that to finish. So now the export has finished, we can go ahead and press the download exported file button. Once we've pressed the download exported file button, we'll see that the file has been downloaded and we can see the file downloaded here. You don't actually need to open this exported file or do anything with this file unless you actually want to change any data, which you can definitely do in the exported file, in which case you can open it and modify any data you would like. But generally, you can definitely leave the file as is and import it directly into your new store, which is exactly what we're going to be doing now. So now we're going to head to our new store, and in our new store, we're going to head to the Matrixify app. Once in the Matrixify app, we then need to navigate to the import section and press add file. Here we then select our newly exported file from our old store and press open to import it. You can also drag the file into this section. It's up to you, whichever works best, as long as you upload the file. So here we can see the app estimating, and here you will see that the app has pre-selected what entity we're importing, which is exactly what we need. So here we have products, smart collections, custom collections, and so on. But here we have this notification about Shopify admin staff notifications, which we have already switched off in a previous step, so this is nothing to worry about. And then again, heading down, it's okay that the export summary has been ignored. The export summary is basically a tab or sheet in your exported file giving data about the export itself. In this case, it's okay that the export summary is ignored since we don't want to be importing that data and can't import that data anyway, so it's okay that it's ignored. But other than that, everything looks as it should, and we can then go ahead and press import. And now that we have pressed import, we can see our data importing and the importing process. So you'll be able to see your products importing, smart collections, custom collections, and so on. And now we'll just wait for the import to finish. As you can see, the import has now finished. In our case, it has finished with errors, but that is definitely not something to worry about. We are on hand to help. So if we scroll down, we can see that products imported perfectly, custom collections, customers. We can see that there is an error for companies, which is customer cannot be found. However, we'll get to that in a minute. Discounts have imported perfectly. Draft orders, there is a warning. In this case, or in every case, warnings don't actually mean that something's not been imported. Warnings are generally just something that you should pay attention to. In this case, cannot find customer by ID. This is very expected since IDs differ from store to store. So the ID that we had for a customer in our old store will not match the ID for a created customer in our new store. This is nothing to worry about though, because Matrixify will link customers to orders by email address or phone. So as long as the customer has this data, then your customer will be linked to the imported orders as well. So in this case, it's not really anything to worry about. The same also goes for orders. pages imported perfectly, blog posts. For files, it seems that my new store already did have existing files, which in this case we have updated instead of new. Again, nothing to worry about. Also, the warnings, nothing to worry about in this case. It's just my files already existed. Shop was updated, and here we have generated meta fields as well. To look into the errors that we received with this import, we would need to download the import results file, which we will do now. And once the import results file has been downloaded, we can then open it, and here we can see the imported data. So here we'll see each entity, which is in the sheets and tabs of the import results file. And if we click on companies, in the import comment and import result column of the file, we will see the error message. Now, in this case, the error message is the customer cannot be found. This is most likely because Shopify did not have a chance to properly index the customers and reply to Matrixify that the customer does in fact already exist because this customer was created already in the import itself. The best thing to do in this case would be to take this company again and just import it again, and it should import with no issues at all. And that is pretty much it. So if we look now in our new store, we will be able to see that it has all of our products. Here we can see the collection was created, orders have been created, customers have been created as well, and everything is as it was in our previous store. And that would be how you can clone or migrate your data from one Shopify store to another Shopify store using the Matrixify app. Now, we do also have a written tutorial which explains the whole process that I've just been through, but in a written format, which if it's easier for you, you can also definitely follow the written tutorial as well. I have left it in the description of this video so you can easily get to it. If you are also on our website looking at this tutorial, or just our website in general, which would be matrixify.app, then you can also easily contact us by clicking on the Contact Us tab of our website, and here you can contact us either via Slack or via email. We will reply within 25 hours. And if you have any questions about the process or run into any issues at all, or for example, if you're doing a bigger type of migration and you have concerns, then you can definitely reach out to us and ask us any questions at all. We will be more than happy to help answer your questions or guide you through the process, give any advice that we have or experience that we have. We will make sure that your data gets cloned or migrated as you would like it to. Again, we are definitely on hand to help. So that would be it from me today. Happy cloning your store.